What does the word fishing invoke in your memory?
Back in '53, we fished out of necessity. We fished 'cause we had to. I was smitten with the broad ranges of choices to fish. I could go down to the pond and catch tommy cats or bluegills, but I could go sharking if I wanted to in the big pond. Sometimes you eat the shark, sometimes he eats you. Listen, I'm talking about the good old days of fishing, when you could catch butter plate-sized bluegills, midnight riverbanks, and a bonfire for catfish, huckleberry fin style. It's cane poles and the birth of the fishing reel, fetching your own bait. Believe that.
Describe the typical fisherman's evening.
I'm talking about a new kind of serenity. There's something about staying in the canoe till the skeeters carry your ass off the lake, 'cause the fish are biting like it's the end of the world. Look, watching the sunset or rise, hands smell like fish, pants are slimy, water in the bottom of the boat or canoe, and an evening of action that will wear out the hardiest man. Hey, catch a man a fish, feed him a meal. Teach a man to fish and feed him for life. Boy, you'd be hard-pressed to find a better meat to put into your motor.
What direction do we take to pass on a diminishing tradition?
We put the focus on the kids. They're so taken with all these gadgets and video games. They're shying away from the great outdoors. It's a tradition that too many people take too lightly. Self-sufficiency has been replaced after umpteen generations with the new world breeding of laziness and gimme.
So how do we curb that and generate interest with today's youth?
Get 'em on the dock, the shoreline. Take 'em on the boat. Lead by example. That's what our grandpas did for us.
Are there any religious overtones associated with fishing?
Boy, you got to get educated now. Man, Jesus was a fisherman, and God put these fish here for us to manage and enjoy. If we don't eat a few, there'll be too many fish and not enough food. Then we have the massive kill-offs.
So if we manage the fisheries, we do God's work?
Hell yes, boy. Whether you religious or not, you walking in God's footsteps when you fish the rivers, streams, lakes, and oceans.
How big a part did fishing play for you growing up as a Michigan boy?
Let me just start by saying, fishing was a way of life. It was like the cornfields and the woods. It was always there, and much time was spent on the water. I bought between the trees and the lake, but hunting was mainly in the fall and fishing was year-round, so I was always wetting the line.
Even in winter?
Especially in winter. Boy, let me tell you what. You eat them crabbies in the summer and they're a little mushy. You catch them through the ice, they're damn near as good as the bluegill's perch and the walleye in a frying pan. Besides that, you ain't never listened to the Red Wings game or the Wolverines game in the shanty with a silver flask full of old granddad whiskey and a full pipe of fresh trees? Boy, you ain't living there. Those Eskimos know what the fuck they doing.
What's the biggest life lesson we can take from fishing?
I don't necessarily know that there's only one, son. I've been learned humility, patience, joy, serenity, fatigue, anger, and even peace. Each man has to find what it brings to his table. These days it brings food to mine, much like it did back in the day. But I still get a big mule kick out of a tug on the other end of my line.
So Tom Sawyer and Huck Finn had it right? They reverted to fishing often?
Yes, sir. I came up like Tom and Huck. If I had me some free time, I was running for the shoreline or for the canoe. I used to pull all dayers when I was still young enough and all the chores were done. Otherwise, I'd get my ass whipped red from Dad's belt.
And how many times a week did your mom make fish for dinner?
At least twice a week, boy. And it was crickets when it was fish fry night, 'cause everyone would be stuffing their gullets with fillets and the room would go quiet as a mouse. Let me tell you about eggs, milk, pulled flour, and butter. You fix up a pan of that and it doesn't even taste like fish. It's so damn good. Throw in some French fried potatoes and some corn or beans. You got a meal now, son.
Where do we go from here with fishing in the outdoors?
We got to light us a fire under these lazy kids' skunk asses. And the parents too. Whatever happened to showing your kids the beauty of the outdoors and the great Mother Nature? Get them involved at a young age, but still, you're never too old to pick up a fishing rod and catch a fish. So we got to make it a full-on mission. Let's get all these city slickers involved. They probably learning a thing or two.
So, in a sense, it's up to us to pass it on.
Boy, there might be hope for you yet. Hell yes, it's up to us, son. You sit around waiting for everyone else to do it, it ain't never getting done now. You got to take life by the balls, kid. We owe it, at the very least, to our grands and great-grands to pass on what they've been passing on for hundreds of years. Daniel Boone. You say that name to a kid nowadays, he wouldn't know what the hell you talking about. You say that to a kid of my time, shit, he was playing them every day, shooting rabbits and squirrels, fishing pike out of the creek, carrying a corncob pipe in his drawers. They's taking the history out of the schools, so it's time we got busy on this mission and pay forward our heritage.
Then this way of life is dying off?
Luckily, we got a land of great lakes, rivers, and oceans on all three sides of this country. But yes, a man's love for the concrete and computers with a fast food meal and TV are taking the place of walking to the woods just to count deer and see how many different varmints you can spy. Or digging your own worms to catch fresh catfish and take it to your grandma. Or climbing a tree to read a couple chapters out of Tom Sawyer, a good book. It ain't dead yet, boy, but it's for sure fading in a jiffy.
What would you say to a man or woman who's never fished?
I'd tell him, hey, you got to live life and you ain't living unless you get outdoors. Fishing is a great place to start. Before you die, you got to try it. Families don't gather around the table no more much to eat dinner. Fishing gets them together again. If fishing is the gospel, make the lake your church. Pass it on down that line. What are you doing in your life's trail to do the right thing? What is it that you just might owe to your peoples that are dead and gone? If you ain't asked yourself these things yet, you slacking, sonny. Best be time to crack that bullwhip on your own ass.
Sum up fishing in 10 words.
All trails lead to the lake. Hope I see you there.